I've had leaders I've worked with before, and they've been in shock that they need to care about the people that they manage's personal life, like that they need to consider that they might have had a bad morning. And they'd be like, I don't need to care about that. I just need to tell them what to do. No, like,
y'all, today's show is so good.
But number one, I've never seen an intro like that.
It is my hope and desire that not only will episode 30 still be fun, but episode 300 will be even more fun. You are made for something great, so go and be awesome.
Ten seconds remaining.
And welcome to the show. My name is Renee Hastings, and I'm your host of Renee Speaks. Y'all, I'm so excited about today's show, and partly the reason is because our show is brought to you by Executive Help Now. Executive Help Now is your virtual assistant service agency that's all about simplifying your business so that you can focus on what really matters. From streamlining operations to managing administrative tasks and keeping everything organized, our team is here to help your team thrive and survive. If you're ready to make life a little bit easier, give us a call and check us out at www.executivehelpnow.org. Y'all, today's show guest is simply amazing. Her name is Katy Featherstone-Coombes, and she is a business strategy and team development consultant at Featherstone Consulting, where she partners with her husband, Joss. They have over 15 years of experience, and with that experience, Katy has helped businesses navigate growth, build products, and align teams. She offers expert support to guide organizations through change, sharpen focus, and confidently move forward. Y'all, put your hands together for Katy Featherstone. Hey, Katy.
Hi.
How are you?
Yeah, I'm great. Thank you. How are you? It's lovely to see you.
I am fantastic. It's so good to see you. I'm so glad that we're able to have you on the show. I know you're all the way across the pond, so having international guests is always a super treat for us.
Thank you. I'm so grateful to be here and excited to get going.
Yes, absolutely. So let's jump right in then, since we have so much to talk about. So first of all, though, Katy, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself, about your background, and the foundation that set you up for success as a consultant in this space?
My background is hugely varied. I don't think you'll find someone who has a more diverse background than myself. I've been really fortunate to do so many different things in my career, but the one thing they've always focused around is solving problems and people. Yeah, I'm fascinated by how people learn. I have been since I was tiny. I studied teaching and I studied psychology. So I got my master's in psychology. And that's kind of where it all began for me.
Mm-hmm. Wow. That is fantastic. Because yes, people are interesting creatures.
They really are.
Yes, absolutely. So, and you went to school in London?
Yeah, well, in the UK, so not far from London. I went to school. I was really lucky, actually. I went to private school for my secondary education. So I know it's slightly different here than it is in America. I studied psychology from a young age. So I was really, really interested in psychology. And then I left school, went to university to become a teacher, studied teaching for a while, and then went on to work with a psychology consultancy, which supported KPMG and Deloitte and many other international consultants around the world. They came in and supported them. So I was really fortunate to work with them. and I learned so much from them. I went on and I worked as a midwife for a while. I've delivered babies. I've taught children with additional needs. I've worked and led like learning and development for whole kind of corporations. I've done a little bit of everything, I think.
Wow, that is so interesting. And when you talk about your teaching career, your eyes just kind of light up and they have a sparkle in them. You can tell it really has a special place in your heart. And would you say though that teaching foundation translated well? Like, were you able to take some of the things that you learned and experienced from being a teacher into corporate America?
Yeah, so much, like so much. I think learning how people learn is really important when it comes to communicating with people. When you're talking to high level executives, leadership teams, CEOs and founders, it's so important that you understand how they learn and how they figure things out and how they get to the bottom of stuff, how they're going to problem solve. And really, you can only really understand that if you get the foundations of how people grow and learn.
Right. That makes sense. That makes perfect sense. And it's not much different than in the school.
No.
And then when you're dealing with young ones. And so when you talk about the invisible elements of a team, and I put invisible in air quotes because that's what the theme of today's show is. What exactly are you referring to? What are these invisible elements that you're referring to?
I think it's so easy to look at a team as a leader and to say, okay, I want to grow my business. I'm going to look at my team and I'm going to think about how can we, develop my marketing team? How can we develop my strategy, my processes, or it must be the processes that are wrong. These are all things that we can see. So everyday work, the stuff that people are doing day to day, their tasks, their capacity, how much the team's achieving. But what we don't see is all these things that are internal, these intangible things that are happening within a team. And that's stuff like their communication style, the way they understand each other, the way they relate to each other. There's this really interesting theory which I've developed over time. It's all about their theory of vision, so their field of vision, so how they see the world and how they've adapted kind of their own field of vision throughout the years and how that then interacts with each other within the team. That has a huge impact on whether the team is successful or not successful. And it's really hard to see those things without understanding it more.
Right. Can you tell us a little bit more about this field of vision?
Yeah, of course.
I have an idea of what I think you might be talking about, but I would love for you to talk a little bit more about that field of vision.
So the way I've always described it is I like to put things in like analogies. So, when you go to the opticians and they used to, when I was a child, they put these glasses on you and inside the glasses, they would slot in lots of different lenses and they would change the lenses. So how I like to explain it to people, and I think it kind of helps to conceptualize it, is that everybody's wearing their own pair of glasses. And within that glasses, a new lens gets put in every time they experience something. Now, that could be a life experience that's as small as how they learn to tie their shoes, or it could be much bigger, a catastrophic life experience, for example, or a wonderful one, something that's life-changing. But basically, these all build up. And then how you look at every situation, you look through your own pair of glasses, your own field of vision, and that helps you to interpret what's going on in front of you. What can sometimes happen with teams is that they don't understand that, and that's where things tend to fall down.
Right. That is so true. Because with us, like you said, we all have different life experiences. We all go through different things. We've all been through different things. Everybody's been through something. So we all react differently to those things. Either they can, be traumatizing for us and be triggers for us later on, or they could help us build character, help us build strength, help us build resilience, but sometimes make us put up walls or barriers, all of those things. And so I love how you talk about taking all of that into consideration when you're considering the whole person and how they may have responded to you in their communication. Instead of just maybe immediately reacting to that, maybe taking a step back to think about what lens could they be looking through when they're responding to you.
Totally. And I think what's often what often gets missed by leadership teams is they don't reflect on their own field of vision. So they're not really understanding. They haven't gone in and dug into their cognitive biases, what's going on for them in that situation. They often think, well, we're all seeing the same thing. Objectively in front of us is the same piece of paper, the same strategy, the same plan, whatever it happens to be. We're all looking at the same thing. So why is it that a room full of 10 people have all taken it in different directions? And it can lead at leadership teams feeling like they're pulling their hair out because they're like, it's the same thing in front of all of us. Why can't you see what I can see? And unfortunately, that's because they're forgetting the fact that we're all coming at it through totally different like fields of vision. We're looking at it through different sets of eyes. We're seeing different things, and that's wonderful, but also can be quite challenging.
Yes, absolutely. That reminds me of this book that I read. I was in a professional development course when I was still in corporate America. And I think the name of the book was called 7 Thinking Hats. And in this book, as part of our course for this particular day, we did an exercise where there were 4 groups of people. Yeah. And each group was given a picture of a house. Now, none of us knew what the other person had. We all just knew that it was a house. Mm-hmm. And so one group would get up and say, well, I see 2 windows and a front porch and a sloping roof and a chimney and a tree off to the right side and a winding path leading up to the front steps. And then the other group would say, no, it's not. It's the side, and there's only one window, and there's no sidewalk, and there's no grass, and it's just a window on the side of the house. And then another group would say, but no, it's not. This house has a deck as the back side of a house, and it's a deck, and it's got stairs that go downstairs, and it leads to a pool, and it's beautiful and has flowers and great landscaping. And then the fourth group, of course, would say, no, it's a garage.
You're wrong. Yeah.
And so all of that to say, we're all looking at the same house, but we each have a different perspective that we're looking at this house. One is looking from the front. One is looking from the side. One is looking from the back. The other is looking from the other side. It's the same house, but how are we looking at it? How are we seeing it? What is our field of vision that we have as a frame of reference to share? It's all valid. It all has to do with the same house, but we all have different perspectives.
Yeah, and I think what really good leaders do in teams to turn teams around is understand that, but also open the floor and have psychological safety to give space for people to actually volunteer their opinions and views and feel safe to do so, because that difference in perspective is so important in terms of growth. Like you won't grow, your teams won't grow, your business won't be successful unless you pay attention to these nuances and these differences within people. It just won't happen. You'll have people walking out the door, you'll have people saying it's not you, it's me, people not really understanding why they're leaving, but just knowing that feeling's not there for them, that they're not joyful when they come to work. And that all boils down to whether the place they work pays attention to the differences that they bring.
Yes, absolutely. I love that, the point that you made about leaders have to create a safe space for their teams to feel free and comfortable to openly express their perspectives and feel like it's a valuable contribution to the group, to the organization, to the culture, all of it. It all contributes to the oneness and the unity of the organization, but it starts with the leadership. They have to create that. From what I understand you saying, they have to create that environment.
Yeah, I think they have to give space for it. Like we can't expect teams to do that organically. Like they're not going to necessarily walk into somewhere. They might have come from somewhere that didn't have psychological safety, and there's a lot of pressure to put on teams without the leaders kind of curating that for them. it's a lot. Like it is hard work. And I think quite often in management and leadership and anything where people have stepped up, even founders of businesses that have grown their businesses from the bottom up, they perhaps have never been taught how to lead, guide, and understand people. And that can mean that you get to that kind of year 3 point of growth, and actually you start stagnating and you start not realizing how you can blow up this thing. You know it's successful, but for some reason it's just not getting over the line. And quite often the key to that is that psychological safety, is that safety within teams, is that understanding that everybody brings a diverse perspective, and that as the founder, the leader, the person, whatever you are, you're not the expert. Like, you are not the person that knows everything. Your team can bring you and give you so much, but they will only do that if you let them feel safe to do so.
Yes, absolutely. So how can leaders begin to identify these invisible aspects that might be affecting their team's performance?
I think it's because it is hard, it's intangible, you know, it's difficult to see. It's quite often the subtle things that you have to read as a leader. So if you're finding your teams are feeling like they're always under the cosh, like they're always under pressure to get things done, like everything feels like urgent and they're firefighting all the time, there is something not right within that team. And that's not because they've got too much work and you need to employ somebody else. It could be that, like there is a chance it's that, but quite often, if you boil it down, it's to do with lack of effective communication and lack of understanding of each other's needs. You can quite often fix an overwhelmed team by understanding them better. So if that's what you're seeing, the underlying cause is that they don't feel safe maybe with each other. Other things to look at is that like loads of mistakes are happening, but they're not really getting picked up on till it's too late. Like you're seeing lots of mistakes and that you're finding that frustrating. You think it's a process thing. You try and come in, you say, we're going to do this. You try often as leaders when they see loads of mistakes, they come in and they go, right, I'm going to dictate how we're going to do this. I know that my way is the right way, or I know that I've done research and I think that this way is the right way, or, you know, I'm just going to keep an eagle eye on you a bit more. I'm going to watch you a bit harder because there's lots of mistakes. And actually that makes what is an already bubbling problem even worse. The problem probably again is that psychological safety. You know, they don't feel safe to point out each other's mistakes and to say, oh, I might have done that differently, or you could try it like this next time, because they've got shame, they've got fear, they've got, you know, Brené Brown talks so much about the impact of shame on us as people, and not being able to point out each other's mistakes, feeling that deep shame makes teams less effective. And that comes out in, you know, the small things, the things that you are frustrating as a leader, but you don't necessarily understand why.
Right. So what is a better way? I know the opposite of making people feel shame is making people feel welcomed and embraced. So what are some words that we can use and words that we should avoid to bring about more of what we want, to, you know, especially when it comes to those mistakes?
Yeah, I think that's really challenging. And I think it all depends on the people in the team. Again, like these are nuanced things. You know, saying something that's wrong actually might be fine. With a really psychologically safe team, you should be able to go up to someone and say that you just did that wrong. Like that just wasn't the best way. And that's okay. Like, you know, and actually that could feel really big right now to someone. But actually, if you're really safe with each other, you should be confident to be able to point that out. If you haven't got that safety yet, it's all about how can you build those relationships with one another from the ground up? Like, how can you really value and care about each other and appreciate? And as a leader, it's about coming in and being like, one, asking actually genuinely and caring how people are. And that's such a small thing. Like I've had leaders I've worked with before, and they've been in shock that they need to care about the people that they manage's personal life, like that they need to consider that they might have had a bad morning. And they'd be like, I don't need to care about that. I just need to tell them what to do. No, like,
no.
Genuinely asking those questions from like an actual place of care, but also admitting fault. Like a really big thing for leaders for their teams is admitting they make mistakes, showing your team that you
admitting fault.
Yeah, that you can make mistakes, you can mess up, that you can get it wrong, and get your team to help you. It's a really, really good way of getting people on side. Is fail in front of them, show them that you have weaknesses and that you are not solid, and get them to build you back up. Because 9 times out of 10, that will grow so many feelings of care, confidence, and strength within them that they are able to help their leader grow and build, that they will care for each other again so much more.
Agreed. And I'm smiling. For those that are watching the video, you'll see like I'm holding back this roaring laugh because I just did this. So I meet with our team on the first and third Mondays of the month. And there was something going on in one of our softwares, our programs that we use. And I was in there messing around and I clicked a button and it has completely made this big old mess. Okay. And I don't know how to fix it. And so I told the team on the call, I'm like, y'all, it was a user error. I'm the user. And I'm not exactly sure how to fix it. So disregard it. In the meantime, just do, this little workaround to get by until I can figure this thing out. But yeah, y'all, it was on me. I'm so sorry. And I'll do my best to get this fixed.
And that's so important. Like, so important. Yeah.
But I had to laugh at myself. I'm like, I can't believe I did that. I can't believe I messed up this thing. But my team, they're so amazing and they're so understanding. And they're like, oh, no big deal. We figured it out. We just did this and this again. And I'm just like, oh, great. I'm glad you were able to figure that out because it was on me. That was my fault. So when it comes to team transformation, so say you have someone on the team, or maybe there's some butting heads or there's some problems going on and you really want things to turn around. You really want everything to work out with everyone because like you said, it is expensive to try to replace people. Mm-hmm. It is, you don't want to lose people. You want people to stay who are a good fit and it's good for them and it's good for everyone. But sometimes there can be some challenges that face the team that aren't immediately visible to the leaders. Mm-hmm. What are some common challenges that team leaders or team members face and how do they overcome them?
I think sometimes you can just not get along with people. Like they can just not be your people. Like you can still have a really successful team and not necessarily have your best friends on your team. But that could be a real challenge for some people to understand that difference in like, I can work really well with you, but I don't necessarily need to be your best friend. And how you communicate effectively through that can be hard work. I think in terms of like how you can transform a team, so from a place of having those kind of arguments lots or falling out a lot, not getting on, not managing your workload together, it takes time and it's a process. And I think it's very specific to each team, but generally you can follow kind of principles. They're going to go through this kind of norming process like all new teams do. That's how they build and grow. There will be times of challenge. But that's really normal and it's good and it should be encouraged. But in those times, I would say step in together, like force yourselves to be together more. Have a day where you all like flood a problem. So you all like flood together. It's a strategy I've used before. So actually there's a challenge in the team. We don't know how to solve or fix it. What we're going to do, instead of leaving that one person's job, which is normally their job to solve that, we're going to flood the problem. So we're all going to work on it today. Like think about a software developing issue. We're just going to all attack it for a day. And then we're going to feel empowered by that because we've overcome it together. You're giving them a shared reason to connect. That's a really great method to get everybody back on the same page. Do something outside of work. So build a space outside of work where you can relate to one another that isn't just work, so that you've got another chance to kind of let your hair down and connect and see the real people and to understand that people have a field of vision because they have a life outside of work. Is a really important thing as well. We all get caught up in the work, but actually do something outside of work to connect. Those are probably the two like really big things that I think make a big difference to teams.
Yeah, I love those ideas. Connecting outside of work helps you see the people that you're working with outside of their work, their work selves, and they can like really be their own natural selves, which is important to developing relationship and building authenticity with one another. It's so great to get together outside of the walls of, the daily grind and just go and, like you said, let your hair down, just relax, chill out a little bit and get to know each other on a different level. because when you do that, when you take a sincere interest in somebody and you show that you are genuinely interested in them and listening to their responses to the questions that you ask, and then remembering those things and bringing them back up later, you know, that is one way to really build relationship and a cohesive team environment back within the workplace, and then even more so outside of the workplace too.
Yeah. And I think it's paying attention. You mentioned it there, but like really listening, like active listening. And that's something that leaders can do, but also teammates can do with each other. You know, it's worth really investing in emotional intelligence and like understanding body language and having kind of some body literacy, you know, like really getting the fact that when somebody feels open and closed, and just the basics of understanding that will open up a leader's eyes and a teammate's eyes to actually how those people are feeling in that moment, in that day. Yeah, I just think it makes a huge difference. Emotional intelligence should be the top focus for any leader that wants to develop, is understanding their own, what's going on for them, and having a better emotional intelligence.
Yeah, agreed. 100%. I just think that is so important as you're building teams and as you're becoming more self-aware, you know, as a leader, because sometimes, like you said, some leaders just think, oh, well, I'm the boss. I'm just going to go in here and bark some orders and people are just going to do what I say. Because that's it.
Yeah.
You know, that's not usually a good thing works.
No, but we are transforming, aren't we? I think, you know, society has changed a lot. Like that, it was that way. There was a time when it was that way, that actually leaders and heads of, you know, CEOs would just go in and say their expectations for the day and would expect it to get done.
Right.
But that's not necessarily the way the world works now. And we know so much more about brains and development and motivation and decision making. That means that we have to pay attention to the nuances. We have to pay more attention to people's emotions and cognitive biases and what's going on inside their brains. We can't avoid it.
Exactly. And then too, having to deal with the pandemic as well. I think that just took a lot of people to a different place that they'd never even experienced before and had such consequences. The isolation and all of it just really did a number on a lot of people. And so now there's a whole nother aspect of emotional intelligence that needs to be considered as people are still working through, you know, the after effects of that situation. Yeah. So, yeah. Because there's even some people that are now, and I have two different things I want to talk to you about. So the first one is people's now super sensitiveness to people saying things to them or doing things, or just the feeling of overwhelm at the littlest thing. Okay, I need to work through that with you. And then the other thing is how to let your team know that it's okay to ask for help and not feel threatened or feel insecure or like their job is in jeopardy if they ask for help. So those are my two major things I wanted to talk to you about today.
The sensitivity, like the hypersensitivity, is growing, and I think is a challenge for so many. Right? How do we balance understanding people's needs and diversity, and the fact that we're all different and we all have different ways of thinking, with the fact that we need resilience and we need to get on with our lives? Like we can't like step on ice or glass. We just can't walk on eggshells everywhere we go. Like we have to be able to be authentic and say how we feel and consider other people, but not have to consider every ounce of everything and worry about that. I think that's about working on internal resilience, understanding who you are as a person. So I think that's a lot of self-work and like professional development in terms of how you manage things, understanding and compartmentalizing things. Really, like you said, we're all different. We've all experienced stuff, right? Like we've all gone through something. Everyone's had a hardship. Like that's not me downplaying or belittling any of those hardships, but we've all been there. Like everyone can associate with having stuff go wrong and it being really tough. So that means in a way that you need to develop the resilience to understand that actually it's not about you. Like someone hasn't said that. It's not about who you are. It's not an attack on you. It's not shutting you down. It's you can still be your true self and they can share their opinion. Like, that's okay. Those things they don't need to collide. You can develop resilience and mental toughness through self-work and rehearsing that and working on who you are.
Yeah, I think a lot of people, unfortunately, don't want to put in the work, because it is work, because you have to constantly be talking to yourself and responding, you know, being self-aware, recognizing how things feel when they land on you, how the words are landing and how that's resonating with your spirit, or does it make you feel some kind of way? But then having the courage to say what needs to be said, you know, because it's not, if you bottle things up, I think that that's not healthy. But some people, I think, have a hard time sharing. Well, when you said this, it made me feel like this. And so I'd like for you to not do that anymore, or something like that. You know, those are sometimes hard words for people to say, but it takes doing that over and over again to get comfortable, where it just becomes second nature. And then figuring out behind the scenes for your own self, why is this bothering me? Why does this make me feel this way? And then getting to the root of that, I think, will help overcome this oversensitivity. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. I really agree. And I think also having an awareness that, like, you need to accept that it's okay if someone doesn't change their behavior. Like, you don't like it. You've managed to empathetically and clearly communicate that you're not comfortable with something going on within your team. But you also need to understand that that person doesn't have to accommodate for your emotions, your feelings, your reactions. They don't have to do that. And they might not do that. So you need to develop the resilience or the methods of coping so that you can step away from that. Okay, it's not about me. Like, I've communicated who I am and what I am. That problem's with them. It's not on me. I don't like it, but I can be bigger than it. It doesn't define me, what they think and who they are and how they've reacted. I am in control of my emotions to do with that. And I can step outside of this and not let this dictate how I feel. They don't control how I'm feeling. I control how I'm feeling.
Exactly. Yeah, that really part. I think that is when people realize that they don't have when they have the power to control how they feel. No one can make them feel some kind of way unless they allow it. So I like how you put that yeah, we have to take responsibility for our own feelings and our own emotions and not be led by our emotions, you know, but truly challenge them sometimes and say, yeah, I've got some things I'm dealing with that may have been triggered by these words, but it's up to me to get to the bottom of it and resolve it and no longer have it be an issue for me.
Yeah.
That makes sense?
Yeah, totally. And I think leaders can pay attention to that. Like, they can open the space for people to be able to process that and for people to be able to say, okay, today's a day where they need a bit more space because actually they've got something going on for them and they're going to keep thinking it through, but they're not responsible necessarily for that person's emotions, but they are just giving them space. And I think that's really important for leaders to be sensitive to or aware of.
Absolutely. Yeah, 100%. Okay, and then my next question about the people who are given and are welcomed and encouraged to share when they're feeling overwhelmed and that they need help, but they don't. How do you?
I think that it is when true psychological safety comes in, to be honest. I think if a team is really safe, they will do that, or it's not the right place for them. I think in the world and naturally how we're led, how our brains have grown, we are community-led creatures. We want to be part of communities. We seek to connect with others. Like, that's who we are. That's what human beings want to do. So if they have connected, if you have truly connected with a community, you will be open and honest with them, or you have some stuff that you need to deal with. Like, that's a you thing. Like, there is only so much a leadership team and a business and can do to let people have that space to be able to do that. It's not their responsibility to transform that person into a person that does do that. But if 90% of your team are psychologically safe and happy and communicating effectively, then you know it's probably not a you problem and a business problem. It's probably actually maybe it's just not the space for them, and they've got some work to do and they need to do that work, and they're either going to do it or they're not. If they are creating a rotten apple type issue within your team, it's about looking at their skills matrix, about, you know, what they're bringing you, what they can do, where their zone of genius is, and perhaps moving them to a different space in the business. You know, perhaps aligning them with something that aligns better with their spirit, who they are, where they, you know, where they can grow, where they really have passion for, making sure that what they're doing on a daily basis is aligned with that, so that you can give them the best opportunity to grow and to thrive. And then maybe they'll get to the point where they actually do start to open up a bit more. That's probably what I'd go back to.
Yeah. Oh, that's so good. That's so good. Because, yeah, it is not the leader's responsibility to figure out everybody's issues. But because we've all got them, right? We've all got something that we deal with. But I love how you said, you know, maybe it's an opportunity for them to think through whether or not where they currently are is the best fit, or if they should be in a different part of the business, doing something else, operating in their gifts and skills and talents where they can shine and feel more comfortable, and then develop this comfort level with being more open because they're in this safe space of where they feel naturally drawn.
Yeah, totally. And I think that is again the invisible stuff that we don't often see, is that you might have employed them for one thing, but we all transform and change as life goes on. Where we what we enjoy doing and where we thrive, it changes as we grow older, as we experience more things. And I think it's really important to go back and to look and to map out the skills of your team and what makes them thrive. And it's where, you know, psychometric testing can really come in, and personality testing and all that stuff can really come into play, because you can pay attention to the nuances, that invisible stuff, and you can capitalize on it to make sure that actually each person within your business is in the right space.
Yeah, that is smart. I love that. So what is one actionable step that leaders can take today to start focusing on these keys to team success today?
So I was trying to think about this, and I was like, what is the one thing they can really do? And it sounds really simple, but I genuinely think just going in and asking everyone how their day is, like not going around everyone, depends how big your business is, obviously, but actually empathetically caring about people is a really easy thing to do. I think reflecting and investigating their own mindset of field of vision, stepping back and doing some cognitive mapping, so really thinking about how they process things and who they are and how they think about things, will really allow them to pay attention to the potential holes within their business, to allow them to start to understand their teams and the people in their teams better. I also wrote down always kind of stepping back, so not having to be the expert in the space, understanding that they don't know everything. And I think the thing that leaders can do to really shift things is to step back, to be able to allow them to step up into the emotional space.
I love that.
So that's probably the most practical thing to do.
Yeah, so good. So take a step back. Don't think you know everything. Be genuinely concerned about people. Ask the people how they're doing and listen to their response. And yeah, so good. So good. Katy, so how can our listeners connect with you? I cannot believe how quickly our time is going. How can leaders or team members, if something you've said today resonated with them and they want to continue the conversation or learn more about a point that you made, how can people stay in touch with you, or where can people find you?
So they can come and find me on LinkedIn if that's a helpful place for them to be. But actually our website, so Featherstone Consulting is our website, so my husband's website, or we also have Facebook. So we've got a Facebook and LinkedIn page, which are both Featherstone Consulting or Featherstone Business Consulting, which you can find us on.
I love your pages. The colors are so calming.
Thank you.
I really like that. And is that a hummingbird as your logo?
Yeah,
I love it. I love it. And so we're showing up on the screen, your Facebook pages, your website. Facebook is Featherstone Consulting. You're also on LinkedIn, and people can find you there. So it's really fantastic. What a beautiful website. Oh, and there you are with your husband. What a great picture. I love it. Love it, love it, love it. So, Katy, if no one takes anything away from today's show, what is one thing you want them to remember?
I want them to be insightful into who they are, to know that they can achieve what they set their mind to, and that the thing that will change their business forever is paying attention to the people and the diversity and the needs in the team. And that will grow their business exponentially if they pay attention to that.
Oh, that's so good. Pay attention to your people.
Yeah.
That's awesome. I love it. Katy, you were made for something great. So go and be awesome.